This is a history of alliances made and broken, of promises forged and strategically dismantled, of the blood of the brave quietly and deliberately denied remembrance. In a time of global upheaval and waning empires, treacherous kings and unrelenting calamities of war on the high seas, one figure stood out not merely as a soldier, but as a testament to dignity and unyielding black leadership, Captain George Middleton. A free-born black American, a noble blackamoor of Massachusetts. Middleton emerged during the colonial era not as a man seeking favor, but as one already possessing stature within his community. Known widely as a master horse trainer and handler, Middleton's skills were essential in a time when command of cavalry and logistics often decided the outcomes of both battle and trade. His horsemanship was not only a profession, but a symbol of high regard, often afforded only to men trusted with both military and civilian operations. George Middleton was not a silent figure in the shadows of history. He was a commanding presence, both respected and feared among white and black Bostonians alike. Contemporary accounts speak of a man of deliberate word and resolute action, fluent in the diplomatic languages of both war and negotiation. Oral tradition suggests that Middleton, like many free black patriots of the time, engaged in private discussions with abolitionists, anti-slavery politicians, and perhaps even loyalist black figures across battle lines, seeking common ground in an era of splintered loyalties of the black nations to the south and the free Blackmoor inhabitants and seafaring nations and alliances. While few personal letters of Middleton survive, his legacy in the African Masonic movement reveals a mind deeply concerned with order, honor, and mutual uplift. Captain George Middleton stood alongside Prince Hall, whose brotherhood would become known today as Prince Hall Freemasonry. Funded in 1775 by Prince Hall and Great Brotherhood withstanding men, Cyrus Johnston, Buston Slinger, Prince Reese, John Canton, Peter Freeman, Benjamin Tyler, Duff Reform, Thomas Sanderson, Prince Raiden, Cato Spain, Boston Smith, Peter Best, Fortin Howard, Richard Titley, and John Batt. This brotherhood became the cornerstone for what would eventually become Prince Hall Masonry, a powerful, fraternal, mutual aid and civic movement among free blacks in the United States. It provided not only fellowship and ritual, but also leadership, education, and community structure at a time when black civic life was really under siege. Middleton moved in intellectual circles that embraced Enlightenment ideals while advocating fiercely for African liberty and self-determination. Captain Middleton's home, still standing on Pinckney Street in Boston, was known as a gathering place for free black men of influence, militiamen, artisans, petitioners, and spiritual leaders. Though records do not confirm the exact number of battles he participated in, it is widely accepted that Middleton fought in early revolutionary skirmishes before organizing the Bucks of America, an all-black militia unit. His leadership was acknowledged with ceremonial honors from the Commonwealth, most notably a sword presented, according to tradition, by Governor John Hancock himself. Captain Middleton was no mere auxiliary to history. He was a cornerstone of an unrecognized black republic rising within the shadows of an infant American one, a man whose quiet strength, strategic wisdom, and lifelong defense of his people deserves a place not at the margins of the founding mythos, but at its center. Initially, George Washington and other patriot leaders actually banned the use of captive black soldiers. But by late 1775 to 1776, as they faced serious troop shortages and realized the British were recruiting black soldiers, they ended up reversing that ban. War captives were sometimes promised freedom by their captors or even by the state in exchange for military service. One notable example of this is the 1st Rhode Island Regiment, which included a significant number of black soldiers, both free and formerly captive prisoner. Some black individuals who had originally been affiliated with British loyalists or who were held captive under British families decided to switch sides and join the Patriots under these new conditions. They were seeking a quicker or more realistic path to freedom, greater opportunity or safety locally, or sometimes even retaliation against former masters, whether loyalist or patriot. Despite Britain's promise of freedom, not all British officers honoured those promises. Some formerly enslaved people were pastured or deported. Others feared abandonment after the war or being sent to brutal colonies like Jamaica. For some, especially free black men or those who saw a path to land security or status, joining the Patriot cause became a strategic choice. The black experience during the Revolutionary War was not strictly loyalist or patriot. It was, at its core, a fight for self-determination. Many fought with the British, believing in the Empire's promises of emancipation. Other black African native groups of Moors that predated the United States and the British fought with the Patriots, securing manumission from their captures or from state legislatures. Some switched sides, not out of betrayal but survival, and the fog of war judging which side could best fulfill their hope for freedom, and which side in strength or weakness would provide an opportunity where power could be seized and territory reclaimed. Only whispers in the darkest circles of like nationals, alignments and conspirators would have knowledge of what would come next.
We have orders to retrieve your weapons.
What followed the Revolutionary War was not the promised dawn of freedom for black Americans, but a dark descent into betrayal, systemic disarmament, and legal erasure. The free black men who had fought, bled and led during the Revolution found themselves discarded and stripped of power as the new republic took shape. Their service was acknowledged with gestures, yet their rights were revoked with laws. Beneath the public celebration of liberty emerged a silent architecture of racial control, rooted in conspiracy, secrecy, and the preservation of white dominance. We're only left to imagine those warrior souls who would never return to subjugation but rather chose a warrior's death. Legal frameworks of betrayal and disarmament, the Naturalization Act of 1790, enacted by the First Congress, this law restricted citizenship to, quote, free white persons. Even though black Americans had fought in the Revolution, they were now legally excluded from the rights of citizenship at the federal level. Without federal citizenship, the right to bear arms, vote, or be protected by constitutional guarantees became void. The Militia Acts of 1792 really codified who could actually serve in the militia. Section 1 explicitly stated that all able-bodied white male citizens between the ages of 18 and 45 were required to enroll in the militia. This language, well, it functioned as a de facto national disarmament of free black men, effectively banning their participation in the nation's armed defense, denying them not just the right to fight, but even the right to defend their communities and homes. Following the war, black militias were quietly disbanded across the states. In North Carolina, local governments moved to confiscate weapons from free black individuals. County records from Beaufort County show increased patrols and curfews targeting black communities, alongside orders to disarm both enslaved and free men. In Virginia, laws prohibited Negroes, mulattoes, and Indians from keeping weapons, with confiscation and bans on attending muster drills. In Maryland and South Carolina, local militias were restructured under state control to exclude non-white participation, basically rendering any armed black organization illegal. James Roberts served under General Washington and later under General Jackson during the War of 1812. After the Battle of New Orleans, despite promises of freedom, Roberts and his fellow black soldiers were disarmed and returned to their enslavers. Roberts described the betrayal, saying, "Never arm another set of colored people. We have fooled them now, but never trust them again. They will not be fooled again with this example before them." Though these records reflect black Americans under siege of subjugation and disarmament for proof of loyalty and love of a nation, the halls are not empty of those who refused, but they have been relabeled as instruments of terror, loyalists and traitors. This was the coordinated dismantling of black agency under the guise of federal unification. The weight of despair, the profound regret, and the haunting dread of having fought under promises that you would stand as an equal among the citizens of a new nation, only to be disarmed, deceived, and made subject in your own homeland, cuts deeper than betrayal, especially when, honestly, some of those who denied you that promise were beneath you in honor, wealth, and standing. As a leader, you not only were misled, but led others into the same false hope. Yet no deception runs as deep as this. The loss of freedom not merely for yourself, but for an entire people, with no end in sight. No vision of when generations might rise again from this carefully orchestrated betrayal. These tragedies of betrayal, sabotage, ambush, deceit, and denial must be remembered and fully, accurately communicated in the halls of American history.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.